Happy spooky season, everyone. Billy back here with Broship of the Nerds. And I just got back from a trip to Indiana to the Covered Bridge Festival, and there were all kinds of antiques and everything. So that was really fun. But that's not why I'm here. The reason I'm here is to review a little film called Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Now, I had not seen this as a kid. This is not one of those films that I grew up with. So, my story with this is I actually went to a convention with some friends of mine in Rosemont, Illinois. This would have been last year, and it was flashback weekend. Now, like I said, I had never seen Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, so my friends and I, there were three of us that went, and one of them had seen it, and he was like, "Hey, I'm going to meet some of the cast, and we're going to go to a screening, but we have to get in line to make sure there's enough seats because it was like first come, first served." So they announced that Alan Howarth was going to be playing music live to the movie, so he was going to be adding to it. So we get a room full of people. We're sitting there, and the little Happy Happy Halloween Silver Shamrock starts playing at the beginning of the film, and it's such a catchy tune that you really can't get it out of your head. So we're watching that, and he's playing music live. And the story was so interesting because in the opening, of course, you see a man getting chased by people. And to his credit, he fights back, gets away, makes it to another man. They get him to the hospital, and he says they're going to kill us all. Of course, the because he was a toy salesman, yeah. And the doctor, Daniel Chalice, played by Tom Atkins, he gets thrown into this. He's a doctor. He's taking care of his patient, the salesman. And after the salesman is killed because he was taking a nap in the doctor's lounge, the salesman daughter, Ellie, played by Stacey Nelkin, shows up. And the two of them decide to go investigate and find out what's going on with this toy factory. Well, Dan O'Hurley is played by, well, his character name is Conal Cochran, and he's played by Dan O'Hurley, however you say it. But anyways, they go to this town, and it was really interesting because the town, everybody's watching them from the window. It's kind of like when you're in a small town and everyone's sort of like checking out who's in town, they're looking out the windows and everything. So it gives you a very uneasy feeling. And of course, this whole time he's supposed to watch the kids, but he's got to take care of this patient, investigate the murders, and his ex-wife, of course, isn't really understanding, which is kind of funny because it just like here he is in the middle of this crisis, and his ex-wife is like, "Hey, you got to come take care of the kids," and he had picked up some Halloween mask for the kids, but she picked up the Silver Shamrock mask. So that's going to play into the story a little bit more as we go along here. And he's with this young lady, and she's like, "Well, he's like, "I could sleep in the car." And she's like, "Well, where do you want to sleep, doctor?" And he goes, "Well, that's a dumb question." And they end up hooking up, and they pretend to be a married couple throughout the film. And this whole film is called Season of the Witch. So you're trying to figure out, like, initially going in, I thought, oh, there's going to be a witch character. I really, when I watched this with the live music going, this is one of those films. Initially, it didn't do very well. It made more than its budget, but it wasn't a huge success. A lot of people were expecting Michael Myers to return. I like the idea of anthologies, of exploring different elements of Halloween. This is one of those that I really enjoy, and I kind of wish that the people that did Halloween would go down a different branch and keep, if they wanted to keep doing Michael Myers, fine, but then every now and then give us another spin off series because the idea of a plot which they discover there's a plot to kill all of the children. The idea is that if they're wearing the silver shamrock mask, whenever the song plays, then the song is going to kill them at 9 o'clock. And they said there's a grand giveaway. Well, in the meantime, they're exploring this town. They are given a tour of the factory, and there's some areas they're not allowed into, and people are being killed. There's problems with the silver shamrock on the back of the mask. If you pull that little circular label off, and one woman pushes the button and it shocks her and it kills her, and he says, "Oh, she's gonna be fine. We flew her to a hospital somewhere else." So it's just very interesting, and of course, you have Colonel Cochrane, who owns the town. He's the one that made this town what it is. So the whole movie, though, you're wondering what is really going on inside this factory. What's the deal with these masks? So the idea that these kids would put on these masks, and if they listen to that song, it would kill them, is just terrifying. And of course, whenever they capture Ellie, Daniel's character goes in to try to fight, or he goes in, he defeats one of them, and then he gets a tour of the facility, and then he reveals the plan, which is to kill the kids. And he says, "Let me show a demonstration." They put a family of 3 into this room, and all 3 of them end up dying because when the kid dies, crickets, snakes, all kinds of bugs come out and attack the others. And that's whenever you're getting to the final act, right? That we're finally getting to that point. So he rescues Ellie, who looks off. They defeat all of them by dropping the silver shamrock box of them onto the people who end up being robots. And then he thinks that he's won and the nightmare is over, but then Ellie turns out she's been turned into one of them and attacks him, and he defeats her, gets away, and then he calls the operator and tells them to stop it, and they get rid of it on some channels, but he's like, "Stop it." Now when I saw a behind the scenes thing, he said he liked to think that they eventually do turn off the channel and that they're able to save the kids. I like that ending. I like that it's not given to you in black and white. You sort of have to figure out what you think happened. And so I would like to think that same thing, that to be more optimistic that they saved all of these kids. But it's nice to leave it open like this in this kind of a film because it gets your mind going, like, what if this were to happen? Of course, Alan, I got to meet him at an after party on the top floor that night, and he was so cool. He was talking to some lady. I was back, give them their space, let them take their time. After he got done talking to her, he waved me up, and then I talked to him about his movies he had done, and he talked about working with John Carpenter and everything. And then he did a pose with me. He put his hands on my throat like he was choking me. And my friend, he goes, "Did you get the picture?" And he goes, "Oh, I messed up his phone." He goes, "Hurry, your friend's dying here." Just a great sense of humor, great guy. I really think he's very generous to his fans. Really nice dude. And I want to see more of these films. I've only watched the original Halloween was playing on um, one of the channels where my buddy and I, BBC, it was playing, they were doing horror movies, and it was playing. My buddy and I were staying at a hotel in Indiana during the Cover Bridge Festival this past week, and it was really cool to see. But there's something about this film I really like. So I would say go in knowing it's not Michael Myers, and it is a Halloween story. So it has to do with the lore of Halloween. I really, with that in mind, this is a great movie. I thought Tom Atkins and Stacey Nelkin had great on-screen chemistry. I thought the story was incredible. It was very creepy. If you want a movie that isn't, it's scary because of the story and everything, and some of the stuff that happens, especially in the opening. But it's not so scary that it's going to give you nightmares, right? So I would say um, it is rated R. I would say, if you have teenage kids that can handle horror, this is fine. This one came out in 1982. Now, this was a Shout Factory release, the collector's edition. I love the art because it intentionally looks like that the cover's kind of worn. That's just the style they went with. And like I said, the idea of killing the kids is just creepy. And it says here, the night no one comes home. But yeah, this is a fun little film. So I would say if you go in knowing it's not Michael Myers, you're going to enjoy it. If you go in thinking, oh, Michael Myers, just know there's no Michael Myers in this. This was a different idea that they ran with. And it has a lot of the Shout Factory edition here has audio commentary with writer director Tommy Lee Wallace, which I need to watch that. Audio commentary with actor Tom Atkins. Standalone, The Making of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which I did watch. Horrors, Hollowed Grounds, The Locations of Halloween 3. Host Sean Clark and writer director Tommy Lee Wallace revisit the original shooting locations of the film. A teaser trailer, a theatrical trailer, TV spots, and a still gallery. So there's a lot of goodies here in this movie. It's only 99 minutes, so it's a very quick movie, doesn't overstay its welcome. It tells the story that it set out to tell, and it gets the point across. So if I were to rate this out of 10, I give it a solid 8 based on what I like personally. There aren't really too many flaws to where I can sit here and pick it apart or anything, but I still give it an 8 out of 10 because it's great for spooky season. It's not a perfect film, but it's a great film. And it's one that I think it found its audience later. It didn't find its audience initially because like I said, it did exceed its budget, but then we don't know what advertising costs were and that sort of thing and then home video sales obviously have bumped this up over the years, but definitely worth a watch. And this is one that I will probably watch every year because it's just different. And I kind of I watch horror all the time or Halloween type films. I watch certain horrors all the time, but then I typically watch Halloween season movies during September and October. It's just amplified in October. So yeah, even though the weather's been warm, get yourself into the spirit of Halloween by watching these sort of films. And I want to know what your thoughts are on Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Let me know in the comments below. Let's get the conversation going. That's all I have for today.